In our 23 years on television, a debate we've had 100 times, and now we have progress to a point. A number of MLB games this spring training to feature automated ball strike challenge system. Are we on the precipice of robo-umps behind the plate? Let's go around the horn.
The end of civilization.
Well, if the asteroid hits us in 8 years, yes. Get to that in a second. NBA second half starts tomorrow. Tonight, one game. Lakers Hornets rescheduled from a postponement. Here are the standings.
We are going to win the championship.
Wow. There is Draymond Green guaranteeing a Golden State championship on the TNT desk in between lighting everything All-Star on fire. I'm sure you could find other players who feel the same way about their teams. So for a second half, what you watching for around the horn, Tim Calishaw?
Specifically, Tony, I'm watching in 5 days now, Lakers-Mavericks. Luka versus Dallas in L.A. That's the game we're waiting for here. Now, in a larger picture than that, the difference between the 4 seed, Houston, and 12 seed, San Antonio, is 8 in the loss column. We're going to see a big jump up and down from teams all over the place in the West in these last 28, 30 games because I think there's a potential for a lot of movement. Houston's been declining. Some other teams, the Lakers think they're going up. Dallas somehow thinks it's going up if Anthony Davis ever gets back. I'm not so sure about that one. I wouldn't hold my breath. But, you know, you look at Minnesota, I think that's a team that can go up. But beyond all that, Oklahoma City and Denver are in those top 2 spots, or Denver's half game behind Memphis, I think. Oklahoma City is the best team. Denver, recent champion. Those are still
all right.
the 2
So
teams
you're
to beat
watching
in
the entire Western Conference, I guess, is what we just broke down.
All of it.
Thank you, David Dennis Jr. What are you watching for?
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit more specific
Thank you
to the
very
entire
much, David.
western half of the United States of America. I'm going to go so specific to the single most important player in the second half of the NBA season, and that is Chet Holmgren and what he's going to do when he joins with his OKC Thunder team for an extended amount of time. That team is already number 1 in defense by a wide margin, and adding a potential defensive player of the year when he's healthy is only going to make that defense even better. But more than that is that team, when they've struggled, they've been beat up in the paint, and they've had SGA struggle offensively. Chet Holmgren can fix both of those things because he is, as I said, a great defender, and he can be a legit second scorer. There are a lot of teams who are underrating this Thunder squad. Chet Holmgren can fix all of that and propel them to a championship.
Kevin Clark, around the horn to you.
I don't know if anybody's underrating this Thunder squad. This is the team I'm watching in the second half of this year. It's the Thunder versus the world. It's them against a bunch of teams and a bunch of players who have done it before. This is historically the best point differential in the history of the NBA through the first half of the season. This is unbelievable. This is the best defense we've seen in years. They are number 1 in basically every defensive category. The question is, can they do this against a bunch of teams who are getting better, who have great stars who've done it before? This Lakers team, obviously, with Luka, we'll see what happens there. We'll see what the Mavericks do as far as embarrassing themselves. Do the ownership give more horrible interviews? There's so much intrigue in the Western Conference, but I'm watching whether or not OKC Thunder can navigate it.
And Mina Kimes.
Yeah, so out here in LA, I'd like to be a hipster and say, oh, I want to see if, Drew Eubanks can give the Clippers meaningful minutes. But let's be real. It's all about Luka and LeBron. And that's not an LA-centric view. This is the thing that everybody wants to see because the variance now that we have for the Lakers is so vast. I am interested in seeing whether their defense craters. 17th right now in defensive rating. We obviously know that replacing Anthony Davis with Luka is a net negative for defense. Will it drop to the point where it becomes an issue in the postseason? Also, how do these players fit together? We've seen LeBron play with a ball-dominant guard before, obviously, but he's at a different phase in his career. He shoots 3 very well. These are the questions I want to see. And of course, as Tim said, to see it play out against Dallas is going to be most tantalizing.
Tim, you've got another conference and maybe 16 teams in total you haven't mentioned yet. Please, floor is yours.
I was going to go the David Dennis route and boil it down to one player, Ja Morant, and see what he can do in these last games for Memphis. Even though they play well without him, if they're going to do something as a 2 seed, and they obviously have played very well this year, he's going to have to play his best
Nobody's taking the bait from Draymond Green, Golden State.
No.
They're going to locked in, guarantee it, put it in Sharpie right now.
I just saw them lose
No.
to Dallas.
Their coach said the 6th seed is the goal. What does that tell you?
Yeah, I think if you put a microphone in front of anybody, they would say, we're going to win it all. And they should. About Golden State, though, there was a note from NBA Today yesterday. It was Kevin Durant talking to Malika Andrews about the reason why he didn't allow the trade to Golden State. Let's take a listen.
People talk crazy about me all the time, you know. Like, that's not the reason why I didn't want to come back. I just didn't want to get traded midway through the season. And at the end of the day, I just didn't want to move. And I wanted to see it through with my team in Phoenix to see what we could do the rest of the season.
David Dennis Jr., how'd you hear Durant there?
I hear a guy that's genuine in what he's saying. It may not make sense to me because he's going to be traded in a few months anyway during the offseason from Phoenix, but the guy just wants to hoop and he wants to finish this thing out as he promised with this Phoenix Suns team. This team being bad is a stain on the last few years of Kevin Durant's legacy and the fact that he has Devin Booker there. They should be better than they are, and they just have not done that. So I commend him for wanting to finish this out and do the best he can while he's there.
Kevin Clark?
Yeah, it's not Kevin Durant's job to make the second half of the NBA season more compelling for us. He obviously enjoys where he is. He said last year, this won't happen probably, but he said last year he wants to be in the Phoenix Suns Ring of Honor at some point. Move over, Thunder Dan. But it seems, again, as David Dennis Jr. said, probably his tenure will end this summer. Having said that, there was no reason for him to go to Golden State. He's been there. He's done that. I think we know that if people can't talk normally about KD in any year. They certainly wouldn't be able to do it going back to a worse Golden State team. I understand this. Phoenix is a very nice place to be in the spring. I'm okay with this.
Kimes?
You know, I think what I'm hearing there is something that we have heard from Durant over the course of his career, which is there's this discrepancy between what motivates him and what we think should motivate him. Because from our perspective, he's this all-time player. We literally talked about where he ranked all-time. So, of course, wouldn't he want to be on a contender so that he can get another ring and then he can make his case? But that's not what motivates him. It wasn't what motivated him when he went to Golden State. It wasn't what motivated him when he went to Brooklyn. He's a different cat. He plays basketball for different reasons, I think, than what some people would like him to, and that's certainly on display here.
Tim Kalishaw.
I'm a little scared to say this, Tony, but Phoenix is number 11. They're one of those teams between 4 and 12.
Now, spring training, and Rob Manfred, commissioner of the league, gave a state of the game. Let's take a listen.
Disparity, it should be. It certainly is at the top of my list of concerns about what's going on in the sport. When I say I can't be critical of the Dodgers, they're doing what the system allows. If I'm going to be critical of something, it's not going to be the Dodgers, it's going to be the system.
Kevin Clark, the commissioner, saying blame the system, not the teams, is what to you?
I agree with Rob Manfred. I don't say that very often, but the Dodgers are every fan's dream. You should be operating like the Dodgers. I'm pairing his words with comments I read from the Brewers owner today, where he said, "Is it my job to win, or am I supposed to entertain families all summer?" Brother, you are not a camp counselor. You're supposed to win the World Series. That is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to field a competitive team. Every owner should be saying, why aren't we the Dodgers? Why are the Yankees saying, ooh, I don't know, some of this is too rich for my blood? No, you spend, Yankees, because you make money and you can spend money. That's the point of the sport.
Mina Kimes, around the horn to you.
The problem here is not that the Dodgers spend $1 bazillion every year. The problem is this offseason, 9 teams spent less than $20 million. The Major League Baseball does not have a salary cap problem. They have a salary floor, or lack thereof, problem. This is the issue. In fact, only 4 teams that spent the most in the history of baseball have ever won the championship. More teams need to spend more money, and that is not the Dodgers' issue.
Tim Kalishaw.
Mina hit on the key subject, and the players always say we'll never have a salary cap. Well, you'll never have a floor either. In Oakland and Miami, and all these teams can just profit by, it's not even Oakland anymore. They're moving on. Those teams will just profit by keeping the payrolls small. The problem is, baseball's problem isn't that the Dodgers spend the most money. It's that they have smart people spending the most money. Okay to let the Mets spend a lot of money. They're like a drunken fantasy player who just goes for offense and forgets he needs a pitching staff. And now all his money's gone, and he can't do anything about it. But the Dodgers had a great organization without spending all that money. Now they do look almost unbeatable.
Wow, how about that? Yeah, a shot at the Mets there. You had the Rangers right in front of you a year after winning the World Series. Yeah, David Dennis Jr. around the horn to you.
So what we're all doing is paraphrasing the old African proverb, don't hate the player, hate the game. And the problem with the MLB is that we have owners sometimes playing two different games. The Dodgers and those like them are playing a game that requires them to try to win baseball games and win World Series. Other owners are playing a different game, which is trying to maximize profits by spending as little as they can on teams, moving, getting big contracts for stadiums, and maximizing their profit at the risk of losing the more games and not being able to actually compete. So when the Dodgers are playing their game better than everybody else, you can't be mad at that.
I'm hearing a lot of blame the game. I'm not hearing blame the system. I'm not hearing fix the system, fix the game. Is that within the realm of possibility? Tim Cowlishaw, last word.
Well, I do think the game tends to fix itself. It's not like the Dodgers win every year. There are more teams that have a chance to win the World Series this year right now than there are that have a chance to win the NBA title. And that's true every year.
For most people, not in your rankings, right? I mean, everybody's tracking. We'll take a break.
There's going to be a lot of movement.
By yourself.
There's going to be a lot of movement.
It's a fluid situation for
We'll
Cowlishaw.
see.
So is that wardrobe you're wearing today.
Welcome back to Around the Horn, coming to you from the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17.
An automated challenge system for balls and strikes in Major League Baseball. Could it be? MLB selectively trialing it out this spring. 2 challenges per team, retained if successful. Only the batter, catcher, or pitcher can initiate, not the manager. It will go up to the big screen so everyone in the stadium and TV audience will see it. In previous runs in other leagues, it took 17 seconds on average. Mina, buy or sell?
I am selling this as a half measure. Just rip the Band-Aid and give us the robots. This would be like if you had spell check, but it wasn't available unless you asked if a word was spelled incorrectly. It's just silly, and it's adding time to a sport that we know doesn't want to do that. I don't know why baseball doesn't just make the move that we all know that they need
Tim
to.
Cowlishaw, buy or sell?
I'm looking forward to this. I'll be in Surprise, Arizona in about a week to check it out for the panel here. And I hope it's like the Hawkeye system in tennis where the fans get into it and clap, and then here comes the ball. Oh! Just barely outside the strike zone.
Okay. David Dennis Jr. around the horn to you.
So while I generally like my scoring system to be done by arbitrary means, by one person deciding what's fair or foul, I do not mind them doing this for now. The only problem is the pitchers and hitters, they're the ones that determine when there's going to be a challenge. They're going to blow through these in the first inning because pitchers always believe they threw a strike, and batters are always going to believe that the ball is outside the strike zone. So this won't last through much of the game.
Kevin Clark.
I'm laughing imagining Tim Cowlishaw alone at a spring training stadium in Arizona next week, completely being the only person clapping and oohing as there's a little replay there of a ball that barely hit the strike zone there. Yeah, I can't wait for it, Tim. No, I agree with Mina. It's a half measure. Give me the robot umps. If ceremonially you want to keep an ump behind home plate to do the he's out thing, and, the Frank Drebin Police Academy overdo it, thing.
Well, you still have to call if a batter is safe on a base or plate, right? I mean, you still will have those plays.
But you can do that with cameras. Everything can be automated. Everything. There is no need for umpires. It's over. Go home.
This is it. We had 23 years we've been having this debate. Some had said we need the human error in the game. Some had said you need it. It would take too long. 17 seconds to me, it doesn't sound like it's too long to me. I know you mean to think it's too long.
17
if it's 4 challenges, 17
it's
seconds, that's 1 minute and 10 seconds we've added to a game. I'm not going to sweat that. We'll move on. Buy or sell too. Connecticut Sun not trading Marina Mabrey, denying her trade request. This is getting spicy. Mabrey's agent, Marcus Crenshaw, called it mind-boggling in this current age of women's empowerment and support of players, and noted that the coach moved on and no free agents returned. But team president Jen Rizzotti says, I think there's probably a lot of professional athletes that are on teams that they don't necessarily prefer to be on. It might also be seen as counterproductive for us to give in to every single trade request, right? So I think sometimes you get put in a no-win situation. Tim, whose side are you on here?
I got to go with Jennifer Rizzotti on this one. I think women's empowerment should be the same as men's empowerment in this case. A lot of male athletes asked to be traded, and most of them don't get traded. They gave up a bunch of players and picks to get Marina Mabrey when she wanted out of her last stop. She wanted out of her last two. I think she should stay here now. She's going to start this year and, be a key figure for
David
that team.
Dennis Jr.
I'm with Mabry on this one. She went to that team thinking she was going to be with a contender. They blew up the team, getting rid of all of their starters that they had in the playoffs. The first time we've ever seen that happen. And now she wants out. And instead of just denying her the trade, they come out and make it seem like they were gifting her because they know how volatile she is and all that, and saying a bunch of nasty stuff about her. And as we know about Marina Mabrey, if you've seen her, she has the potential to make Jimmy Butler look like Tim Duncan if she does not want to be there. This is a toxic situation that is only going to be worse.
Kevin Clark.
Yeah, listen, I cover the NFL where every team ignores every trade request, so this is not unusual for me. They just ignore and pretend it doesn't happen. But no, I'm on the team side in this one. Obviously, I understand, as David Dennis alluded to, there's a situation here where they're the first WNBA team in history, or NBA team for that matter, to retool their entire starting lineup from their final playoff game. It's never happened before in the history of the league to have a new starting five. So I understand the impulse to one out, but I don't think asking out again is going to work if the team doesn't want to do it. I think there's limits to the player empowerment era, and we're seeing it. I don't think they're going to.
And me.
Yeah, I mean, in the interest of women's empowerment, I think that this show should stop right now so that I go straight to FaceTime. It just seems only fair, Tony. See how ridiculous that sounds? That's how ridiculous her agent sounded. Okay, I can say that it is ridiculous. It is laughable. That said, I am sympathetic to her wanting out because this is a team that did rip everything up despite having been competitive in recent years. Doesn't mean that they have to entertain it.
Fire Cell 3, BYU 91, Kansas 57 last night. What a blowout. Tied for the third worst loss for Kansas ever. Jayhawks were the preseason number one. They're 17-9 now, 10-9 over the last 3 months. The KC Star asked, is this rock bottom? I asked the same, David. Is this rock chalk bottom?
This is about as close as rock bottom that you can get for this organization. This is the fifth worst blowout from an unranked team to a ranked team that we've ever seen. And a lot of it is about roster construction. They have a center who can't shoot, power forward who can't shoot, and a point guard who can't shoot. They're outside the top 300 in three-point field goal attempts and outside the top 150 in makes. That is not how you win with the team constructed like that.
Kevin Clark?
Yeah, the bad news is they lost by over 30 points to BYU. The worst news is that last year, Bill Self said he was fantasizing about next year, which is this year. He thought this was going to be their breakout year. It isn't. It's a disaster. This is what the portal era brings. Winners and losers. They're a loser of it so far.
Mina Kimes.
What's so befuddling about this is a team that was not only ranked first in the preseason, but started 7-0 and beat the likes of UNC and Duke. So we're looking not just at a poorly constructed roster, but one that has imploded, which does point to coaching.
Tim Kalishaw.
Bill Self's a great coach, has the championships to prove it. He has not really figured out the transfer portal. Everybody thought they had made the right moves. They got Hunter Dickinson last year. This year, A.J. Storr from Wisconsin. My guy, Ryland Griffin from Richardson, Texas, by way of Alabama. None of those guys are playing at their previous level. Something is wrong with that team.
Time for our transfer portal. Tim Kalishaw, David Dennis Jr., thanks for your time. Mina Kimes, Kevin Clark. Showdown next. Sporting KC, CONCACAF Champions Cup opener postponed last night. 3 inches of snow, minus 25 wind chill in Kansas City. Postponed until tonight, where they've cleared the snow off, but still wind chill minus 30. Mina, what do we have in Hoth tonight?
A deeply unpleasant experience. I rarely get to cite my athletic experience on this show. I grew up playing soccer.
Yes.
Let me say this. Heading a soccer ball in freezing cold weather is like being punched in the face by the strongest person you've ever met. This is going to be an awful experience for the players and also for Miami fans who, of course, had the recent experience with their other team, the Dolphins, going to Kansas City and getting their butts kicked in Vegas.
Kevin Clark.
I very rarely get to cite my experience being punched in the face, Mina, but I have been punched in the face, and I would hate to head a ball in this kind of weather. I don't think this is becoming of Messi to play in a game like this. I don't think CONCACAF should have it. They should either postpone it, find a warmer weather environment. Like, this is ludicrous. I've seen Messi play live. It is a beautiful experience. To see him in this environment would not be fun. He would just stand there. There's going to be ice. There's going to be snow on the ground. This is a disaster. Figure out a way for this not to happen. And my guess is, if Messi's smart, he's going to load manage himself out of
So
this.
you're only viewing that, there's other players in the field. It's not just about Messi, by the way. And now you haven't answered the question. Could he do it on a cold, snowy, windy night in Kansas City? We'll give Mina Kimes the FaceTime.
No.
They're going to start calling him Soccer Tua. All right, so speaking of the NFL, news broke today that the salary cap rose more than people expected to a whopping $277 million, which is crazy. I want to remind folks, the big winners here are not the teams with a ton of money, but the teams who have just a little bit more. I would go back to 2021 when the Patriots spent $160 million in like 9 days, kind of the beginning of the end of the Bill Belichick era. Spending a ton of money in free agency doesn't mean you have won free agency.
Could do it, folks. Kimes over Clark in our win and showdown. Tim?